Do you feel like you're stuck in a cycle of anxiety no matter what changes you make in your life? You're definitely not alone. I've been talking to a lot of my clients lately and noticed that this is a common pattern. And it's based on some equally common misconceptions. So I want to dive into that today and unpack the whole shebang. If we don't know each other yet, my name is Sukie Baxter, and I help you to rewire yourself for greater health, happiness, and success. And if you're looking to break free from the cycle of anxiety and create a life that aligns with your true core self, then you are in the right place. So let's dive into this topic. So, like I said, have been talking to a lot of people who seem to be struggling with anxiety, and they are falling victim to something that I call the I'll be happy when fallacy. And that is to find something that seems dissatisfying in life. So, for example, I'm not happy with my career. I don't like my job, or I like my work, but I don't like the company that I'm in. Perhaps I'm dissatisfied with my romantic relationship. Perhaps I am unhappy with the city or town that I live in, or even the country that I live in. And so you then decide, well, this sense of impending doom, this chronic unrest that I feel, this agitation that just never seems to go away and seems to be affecting me, that will resolve when this uncomfortable circumstance or situation resolves. And so you then make a change only to find that you get a little bit of maybe temporary relief, and then that dissatisfaction creeps right back in. And you look at your life and you find more fault, or maybe you find fault in another area of your life. Like I said, I call this the I'll be happy when fallacy, because it means that you're thinking that the anxiety is going to go away when I reach a specific milestone, when I reach a specific achievement. And often it's very achievement based, right? So I'll be happy when I graduate from college. I'll be happy when I get the advanced degree, when I get the promotion. I'll be happy when I can do a triathlon. Well, that didn't do it. So now I'm going to drive myself even harder. I'm going to do an Ironman triathlon, whatever the achievements happen to be. But that anxiety never really diminishes. And this is a real paradox because anxiety can actually be a motivator. It can actually drive success. So then there's this even greater separation, right? Because now you're very successful, at least from the outside. So people observing you from the outside might perceive that you have it all together. You are accomplished. You probably have a very good career that you are excellent at doing. You may have other achievements, academic achievements, athletic achievements. You may be an accomplished performer, maybe a musician or an actor or a singer. And so other people looking at you may admire what you have accomplished in your life. And yet, if all of these accomplishments are driven by anxiety, that anxiety will still be there, causing you to feel almost like a little bit of an imposter in your life, almost like you're performing this success. And at a certain point, you come to realize that anxiety is not going to go away. It's not behind the next achievement. Right? This is a realization that many of my clients come to, and that's often where our conversations pick up as they realize, well, gosh, these changing these circumstances isn't working. And here's why this happens. Here's why this pattern gets set up. So, very early in life, many people get praise or acknowledgement for achievements. And this is common. It's very normal, right? So when you are in school, it's very common to get a gold star when you do well in school. And that's a very basic example, right? You get a sticker or you get a pizza party when you reach a certain milestone in your grade school education. It can also be a family pattern where your parents or caregivers are achievement focused. And this can be with your best interest at heart. This is not necessarily something that your parents or caregivers are doing out of malice. They want the best for you. And so when you achieve, they will often praise you for that, or perhaps even live vicariously through you. Maybe they didn't have the same opportunities that you did for whatever reason. And when you are able to achieve very well and set yourself up for what looks like success, that makes them feel comfortable and safe. And so they praise you for that. In other circumstances, you may also not get praise, but you get left alone when you're doing well. So if you are the good girl or the good boy or the good kid, then you may not get negative attention, right? So it could just be that you avoid punishment through essentially good behavior, through what we would call success. And of course, success is such a nebulous term, right? Because it can be defined in so many different ways. But whatever that was for you, whenever you were basically not being a problem and you were conforming to other people's desires and demands, then you avoid negative attention, right? So it can kind of be an avoidance of punishment, or it can be to gain praise and acceptance and respect. What's really important to know here is that the human nervous system, the human brain, is wired for connection. We need it. It is imperative to our survival. And it is so imperative that when scientists and researchers have looked at social rejection and looked at what happens in your brain when you experience even minor social rejection, your brain lights up the same pain centers that are active when you experience physical pain. So if you break your leg, you're activating the same pain centers in your brain as when someone rejects you, pushes you away, others you, bullies you, makes you wrong or bad. All of that, when you feel like you have gone against the grain and you're belonging to your family or your social group or your community is threatened, your brain sounds the alarm and those pain centers light up. It is that important. Humans will orient to the elements of basically safety, which is being in a community where you belong, dignity, which means that you have standing in that community, and respect, right, where you have the other people in the community um are treating you with respect, treating you well, welcoming you in, being gracious, whatever that means. Obviously, that's different in different communities, but having whatever good manners look like in that community toward you, welcoming you into the fold, into the group, right? And this goes back to the days when humans were living in a much more wild setting where we didn't have houses and cars and urban settings. We needed that community connection. We were hunter gatherers, and we needed our little group, our family group or our extended group of friends and family, our village, to keep us safe. So your brain is going to be doing this. This doesn't mean that there's something wrong or bad with you. This is human nature. This is just how your brain is set up. When you are a child, from infancy and on upward, you're figuring out what the patterns are that get you that safety, dignity, and respect that you so deeply not only crave, but require to be a functioning human being. So then what happens in this pattern is that success and achievement then become this very elaborate form of people pleasing, where essentially you are achieving things in your life so that other people feel safe and comfortable. And this is not conscious, obviously. It's definitely a subconscious, deeply pre-verbal, biologically wired pattern. And what happens is that there's a disconnect between the achievements that you have and the anxiety that is driving you. You're not actually moving towards something that you desire. You're not actually moving towards your intrinsic motivation. You're getting your real core values met in your life. Instead, you are doing what other people have set up as, quote, the right thing to do. So then you find yourself in this life, and things maybe look like they're not quite the way that you want them to look. Part of that is another function of anxiety, because anxiety is really just a nervous system state, and it's a nervous system state of being either subtly or very much in your fight or flight nervous system, in that autonomic branch of your nervous system that is responsible for perceiving threat and then preserving your life, right? Motivating you to take action to preserve your life. So when you're chronically in that state, you're going to find things to be dissatisfied with because everything looks slightly threatening. And this is something that Stephen Porges has shown through his work with polyvagal theory, is that when you are in a threat state in your nervous system, that sympathetic branch of your nervous system that's responsible for your fight or flight response, Even neutral facial expressions can look angry. So you're actually perceiving something that's not real. A person who's entirely neutral can look very threatening and dangerous to you. And this is true of many things. So opportunities can look threatening and dangerous. And in a weird way, being in that state makes people really successful because you can sort of patrol the perimeter in a sense and be aware of threats that might arise and plan ahead for them. And it motivates you to take action. It's a very agitating force. Um, and it really it really focuses your brain. So you can become very efficient at resolving these perceived threats as they come up, but you're always just moving away from fear. And so we're going to circle back here to what I was saying right at the beginning, which is that a lot of people that I've been talking to are saying, well, I think that what I need to do is change my career, change my living situation, change my relationship status. Whether that's you're in a relationship and you need to get out of it, or you're not in a relationship and you feel like you need to get into one. All of that might be true. That might actually be something that would be very fulfilling in your life. However, if you make those choices from a place of being in a state of anxiety, they will be fear-based choices. You will be making decisions out of a need to avoid negative consequences rather than out of a desire to align with your true core values. And this is the subtle difference that matters so much, because when you make that shift, if you can down-regulate that threat response that's in your nervous system and start operating from a place of being centered, being grounded, having access to a regulated nervous system where your nervous system can move through all states, which is really what regulation is. It's not necessarily being calm, although if you've been anxious for a long time, being calm is a wonderful thing to experience, and often very elusive if anxiety has been your norm and your default operating state. When you have access to a nervous system that can respond to each moment appropriately by moving fluidly through all the states of activation, you can then connect with your intrinsic desires and actually make decisions from that place. This creates something that I call self-actualized success. You're no longer performing success for other people. You're no longer making decisions out of what other people deem appropriate or successful or valuable or valid. You are actually making decisions that are aligned with with what you want in your life. And little by little, this will lead you to a place where the calm centered state that you want to be in and your success are aligned. So in order to break free from the cycle of achieving and then feeling anxious and then ultimately often winding up in burnout and exhaustion with chronic health issues, it's really important to address the root cause of the anxiety, which is this underlying activation in your nervous system. And the best way, the most effective and longest lasting way that I have found to do that is through somatic, meaning body-based approaches. The reason is that these patterns are non-linguistic, meaning you cannot have a rational conversation with the parts of yourself that are locked into this cycle. So all the thought work, all the journaling, all the mindset shifts, really great work, but it will ultimately fall short of addressing these pre-verbal patterns. Sometimes these patterns are even intergenerational. They can come from your ancestors. So you can have trauma in your ancestry that has been passed down, that has perpetuated a pattern of stress and activation in your own nervous system through no experience that you've had in your actual lived experience through your life. So in order to actually have an effect on those body-based patterns, we need to take a body-based approach. And this is the work that I do with clients. This is what I teach. This is what I've been doing for over 20 years now. If you're curious about how this approach could work for you, click the link below to learn more. I'd love to help you take the next step towards lasting change.